All right, let's move it along here. Talk a little Xavier McKinney. I thought this was kind of cool. Came across the wire. PFF tweeted out. There's all kinds of Packer stuff on PFF's account right now, man. They said X gonna take it from you. You gotta love that. And those of you who grew up in the '90s, you know exactly what that means. So coverage grade 90.2 for Xavier McKinney. 8 targets, 5 interceptions, only 3 catches allowed. So he's been targeted 8 times. I want to really help everybody truly understand what these numbers mean here. He's only been targeted 8 times, okay? 5 of those targets were intercepted, and only 3 were caught. He has more interceptions than catches allowed. That is insane, Tim. Xavier McKinney, listen, this is why people talk about Joe Barry couldn't do this. Joe Barry couldn't do it. Joe Barry didn't have Xavier McKinney. Joe Barry didn't have Evan Williams. Joe Barry didn't have Adrian Cooper. Joe Barry didn't have, for whatever reason, we had Eric Wilson. We just didn't have him on the field. And by the way, for those of you that may disagree with that, go just take a quick peek on how Devondre Campbell's playing this year, because that was how he played last year too. That was not an anomaly. But Xavier McKinney, Tim, 8 targets, 5 picks, only 3 catches allowed. Dude, this is Charles Woodson top stuff right here, man.
Hey, we've made the comparisons before, and he's an absolute leader, just like Woody was for us on that back end. This is a piece that you need when you're building a complete defense. You got to be stout up front and in the middle, and you got to have ball hawks in that secondary. And McKinney's probably the biggest ball hawk we have, but he certainly isn't the only one. And you just love to see him, man. He's never out of position. And he's never fooled. I mean, have we even seen one speck of tape where he looks fooled or beat or confused? No. He's got high FBI, and his physical abilities show on the football field. We talk about how he can cover, he can go from middle field close to out to the boundary to make a play in the blink of an eye, covers a lot of ground and has great instincts. I'm just grateful that he's a Packer, man. Clearly, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the single biggest free agent signing of Goody's career. Absolutely.
Man, let's think about that for a second.
I mean, really, like you talk about the impact in recent memory, at least for sure. I can't think of a bigger free agent signing in recent memory than
you had Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, but they didn't have the impact that Xavier.
Not immediately. No.
I mean, even overall, like when you think about it, and listen, this is just the first year of Xavier McKinney. So, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's not even close. He signed Adrian Amos, made the safety room better, no doubt about it. But Adrian Amos never did anything like this. Are you kidding me? So yeah. I'm with you, Tim. I can't think of a free agent signing if Goody makes it to the Hall of Fame, if they get a ring and he makes it to the Hall of Fame, some of the stuff that's going to be said is this dude drafted Jordan Love when everybody said it was the stupid thing to do, right? That's going to be on the resume.
Traded up to get Jordan Love.
Yes. Traded up to get Evan Williams if he continues on that trajectory, right? Went out and signed Xavier. These are all going to be things that are on his resume, and it's going to be, absolutely huge. This might be Jordan Love 1. This is 1B, right? As far as Goody moves so far, no doubt about that. Let's see. Frank in the chat on X. Appreciate you hanging out, Bub. He says, how do you feel about Evan Williams so far this year? He's a dog. Listen, when they drafted Evan Williams, let me walk you through the entire process here on PTA. We followed this from start to finish. When they drafted him on my draft board, he was much lower. And it's like, man, what this one kind of catches you off guard. There were several safeties that were higher on the board. Understand, this is not my evaluation. This is taking in a bunch of trusted websites that I think are okay. These aren't hot button top websites, right? They're not just going to talk about random nonsense. Like, they're really taking into consideration where these players rank and compiled it into this huge draft board. And he was towards the bottom, right? When I say towards the bottom, he wasn't all the way at the bottom, but I had him lit up green here on my board. And the reason being was because, like, if they're in the green, that's the Packers are all over them. Interviews, maybe Senior Bowl. I can't remember exactly the criteria. It's like 3 or 4 different criteria that was met. He met their minimum requirements for that position that they like to draft as far as physical tools go, all those things, right? But the overall rankings, I had him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 from the bottom. So honestly, he's probably middle of the pack. I always say we had him low, but we kind of had him middle of the pack. But the Packers traded up and got it. So on air for our draft party, which we'll be doing another one this year, we'll actually be live in Green Bay this year, which is going to be awesome. Already got everything squared away there.
Heard it from a fan right here.
But when they drafted him, we pulled up the highlight reel and like, okay, what's up with this guy? Let's see what the big thing is. The thing that stood out was his run defense was just off the charts. His ability to pursue, read angles, close on the tackle, finish the tackle, absolutely harassed the hell out of Caleb Williams in that game between Oregon and USC. That was the big thing. But the thing that I didn't see was the pass defense, right? You didn't see him picking a lot of passes off. You didn't see him batting balls down. Now, what you got to take into consideration is when you don't see a lot of highlights of him doing that, it means they're probably not testing him either, right? So that's where we kind of overlooked that a bit. So he gets drafted. Here's my point. He gets drafted, and he just comes out and lights it up in training. What do you have, like 5 interceptions in training camp or something crazy, Tim? Every day.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first of that rookie class. He was the first name that was jumping off the film, jumping off the stat sheet. The name was ringing bells immediately. Hey, this Evan Williams kid might be the real deal. I mean, we saw that immediate. You're talking about immediate impact. This guy showed up ready to play ball.
Yeah. And so training camp, you've seen it. And I will always be this way too, man, because the hype train is real. Like you get the hype train going, and then all of a sudden this player isn't the next Joe Montana or Ronnie Lott, and everybody's like, cut him, he's horrible. Devontae Adams, right? Same thing. Yep. So training camp is like, all right, well, we got to see it in preseason, right? Let's see when he's going against somebody that's not teammates. He did it in the preseason. And then after the preseason, it's going, all right, we got to see it. Let's see it in a real game now. Preseason don't really count. He's done it every step of the way. He's checked the box. Goody trades up for him. That says they had a tremendous amount of value stamped on Evan Williams for them to be willing to trade up and take him when they did, right? That checks the box. Training camp checked the box. Preseason checks the box. Now the regular season checks the box. We're in week 8 still trying to find, maybe this isn't real. No, this is real. Evan Williams is a damn dog. I think him and X together for the next 4 years at a minimum. Holy cow.
And you know what I think the X factor is, no pun intended, is the fact that just like you said, man, we know about his ability to play in the box. We know about his ability to wrap up and make tackles, play downhill. Great in the run fits, coming up, making run stops, those kind of things. I think when he got here, it was a point of emphasis for him to work on that pass defense. And now you see it translating to actual game film. And I mean, the guy's got more than a few PBUs this year, including one to clinch a game for us this season when you needed it the most. The guy is a playmaker, and in a defense full of playmakers, it can be tough to stand out. And I think Evan Williams is one of those guys. I definitely think he stands out in this defense. And look what it's done. It's allowed Hafley to play with personnel a little bit. And we can work different guys into the slot. We can push Keyshawn to the boundary, put Bullard in the slot because we can trust Williams back there. Hell, you could probably put Williams in a slot in a pinch if you needed to.
I think you could.
So he's versatile, talented, and you talk about a guy that you hope is around for the long haul here in Green Bay. It's definitely 33 out there, and I'm all for it. Compare him to whoever you want to compare him to, but I'm just happy he's a Packer. And like I said, not my favorite bourbon, but definitely one of my favorite defenders on this defense, Evan Williams, for sure.
Yeah, but it's funny too. You what you were just saying there about could he play in the slot and this and that. One of the things I do every offseason, and I don't talk about it live on the air, but we'll probably hit on it tonight. I take each position group and kind of write the storyline of the year. And it's like this question, all right? Like, okay, how is this going to play out this coming football season? And by the end of the season, and usually we get halfway through the season, I'm chomping at the bit wanting to answer the question, but it's not a full slate of work yet. But I go through each position group and go, okay, how did that play out? I'm going to rattle them off real quick. We're going to probably talk about them and try to answer the question at the halfway point on tonight's show. Number 1, quarterback, love contract. Does he get re-signed? We know the answer to that, right? Halfback. Jacobs, do we get Jacobs from 2022? And also, can Marshawn Lloyd pick up the playbook quick enough to be a factor this year, right? Well, obviously, Lloyd been injured. We'll hit on it all night. Wide
was
receiver.
gonna say, Lloyd's got plenty of time to pick up the playbook. He's watching a lot of tape, doing a lot of study right now, right?
Exactly. Wide receiver, X, Romeo Dobbs, Z, Jaden Reed, slot, Dontavion Wicks, and can Watson stay healthy, right? We know Watson's healthy. You got the hammy straightened out. We're good to go there. Wicks obviously taking a step back. Reed has had to lean into the slot because Wicks has struggled a little bit, right? So he couldn't play that true Z and really mix and match that F receiver. So offensive line, Zach Tom injury because he was banged up. He tore the pec, right? No problem there. Monk and Morgan starters, question mark, right? Asking about Jordan Morgan.
Yep.
Defensive line, Kenny contract. Obviously, it got done. We'll talk about that. Devontae Wyatt's tackling ability, did that get cleaned up? Obviously, he's been a little banged up, on and on. So these are just questions I fired off. Stokes, is Stokes a true number 2 corner? We got the answer to that, right? Probably not. It doesn't mean he's horrible at football, but right now, Keyshawn, I'll tell you what's not on that list right there, Tim. Keyshawn going to the boundary.
Man, right?
That's out of the blue.
That has really made things interesting because when I saw that, I was like, is that K9 on the boundary? And then I'm watching him play, and I'm like, he doesn't look bad out there. For someone who I was convinced Keyshawn was a slot and a return guy, and that's it. Now you pepper this in, and it's like, oh, now we've got freedom. We talk about the flexibility to move guys into the slot. I was not prepared for the fact that Keyshawn could move to the boundary, and we've seen that. Clearly, they like him out there. We're kind of seeing the Eric Stokes Jr. experiment is kind of, things are transitioning now, and they're not afraid to put Keyshawn out there on the boundary.
Yeah, definitely. So again, Frank, to answer your question, we're feeling great about Evan Williams, man. I think the hype is real. Carl K in the chat, show the new draftees Evan Williams tape and tell them this is what we expect from you. And, when you say it like that too, Carl, it kind of comes across like we won't accept anything other than this. I think another way to approach, especially with today's younger players coming in the league, is look, don't feel like you got to wait 2 years to take your spot on this team, right? Look at what Evan did last year. You approach it that way. I'm telling you, man, that's a great point made there by Carl K, for sure. Let's see. Com in the chat. Com 1000 says, or Cam 1000, I apologize if I got that wrong. Has Katan Oladapo played yet? Started off behind the 8 ball there with the toe injury. And the reality is, I think he would have had as much a shot as anyone else if he hadn't been hurt. But Evan Williams and Javon Bullard just ran away with it. So I think your biggest chance of Oladapo being a contributor this year is going to be on special teams. And we want to see him take that step, right? There's no reason to try to shake things up in the safety room right now with the way Evan Williams and obviously our boy Xavier McKinney are playing.
Yeah, and it allows KT to develop, right? Gives him time to develop and, play his way onto the field through special teams.
Yeah. Ron Samble says K9 was in the outside corner rotation in camp at the practices I was at. That's interesting. So I didn't know that.
Yes, he was.
I definitely overlooked that.
And Coach Len's next comment, too, I totally agree. We saw Nixon on the boundary in camp, but thought nothing of it. That's my thoughts exactly. I remember what Ron's saying. It's like, you see lots of things at camp, right? I mean, I saw Jair throwing passes at camp, like you're going to see all kinds of stuff. So you never really know. And it's like you say, you tend to get hype at that time of year. We got football back, everyone's excited to see the boys out there putting in work. And, sometimes you see things and you latch onto them and speculate. And sometimes you see things like Keyshawn, working on the outside and you think nothing of it. It goes right underneath your nose. And now here we are, going into the, middle part of this season and, Key's playing on the boundary, like 40% of the time here, 40% of the snaps you're seeing him out there. So, and he's playing well. I'm not saying he's playing all pro level, but he's certainly not the liability I thought he would have been on the outside. So pleasantly surprised.
I completely agree, man. Completely agree. All right. So we're all caught up there in the comments. Let's move on to the injury report. We didn't get a chance to hit it yesterday before I left for the ball game. And obviously the report came out like 10 minutes after we ended the stream. But here is a look at the injury report. So Jair Alexander, full participation. let's look at the things that have changed because we covered it pretty extensively throughout the week. All right. So let's talk about the things that changed. Jair went from limited with the groin to full participation on Friday. Kenny Clark went from limited with the toe to full participation on Friday. Keyshawn Nixon went from limited with the hamstring to full participation. Jaden Reed with the ankle went from limited to full participation. I've seen people in the chat talking about his ankle. That's another thing that's probably come into play with Jaden Reed. We need to keep our eye on. That could be why he's not been as productive here lately. And if I remember correctly, too, he actually hurt his ankle on a punt return, I think. So all the more reason to just keep him the hell away from that punt return team. So those are the only things that change. Now let's talk about the game status designation. All right. Corey Ballantyne did not participate all week. He is listed as doubtful. I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to be inactive for the game tomorrow. Okay. Josh Myers was did not participate Wednesday with a wrist injury. He was limited Thursday and Friday. He's listed as questionable, a 50% chance of playing, basically. Quay Walker with the concussion did not participate Wednesday. Thursday was limited. Friday was limited. He's listed as questionable for the game. And you guys know I talked about if he clears concussion protocol, there's no like gray area there. You either clear it or you don't. I'm assuming he did, but I also mentioned the Packers were going to list him in a way that's kind of this fog of war approach and not give too much information to the other team. So they may have him, hey, look, let's sit out another week because Eric's playing so well. Eric Wilson and obviously Edgerrin Cooper and McDuffie are kind of holding their own there. If that's the case, cool. But I could also see it being something where, hey, look, we're going to just at least give the defense a little something to think about, not knowing what linebacker is going to be out there. And then Devontae Wyatt was limited all week. He's listed as questionable, 50% chance of playing. He said he's going to be out there. Just kind of reading the tea leaves with the beat reporters and everything, they're making it sound as if he's going to play based off what I've heard. But LaFleur is making it sound like it's still up in the air. I'm okay with him sitting this one out, to be honest with you. Get that ankle a little bit in. The worst thing that would happen to him, let's say that you do go out there. And again, I'm not predicting this because you guys know any given Sunday, any team can beat any team. But let's say you go out there and you win the game by 14 points somehow, some way, right? And you lose Devontae Wyatt in a game where you really didn't need him. Yeah. That would be tough right there, man.
Say the same thing about Quay. You know, like you said, maybe there's no sense of urgency to get him back out there. I feel the same way, especially looking at Colby Wooden here above Devontae Wyatt on the injury report. He was full all week, right, with the knee, full participation. So Colby Wooden's going to be good to go 100% for Sunday. Do we get a better look at him, see a little bit more snaps for him, and maybe we're not in a rush to get Devontae Wyatt out there? Because you're right, man, it does you no good to win a thriller or boat race Jacksonville either way if you lose Devontae Wyatt for the long term. Yeah. Only other thought I had is looking at Scoot here. I like how they're handling him. Limited early in the week and then full participant yesterday. So clearly Scoot is going to go again, and they're watching that ankle and probably making sure that he's not re-aggravating anything, but also keeping him, up to game speed and ready to go. So hopefully Scoot has a big game on Sunday.
Yeah. And of course you had the Twitter doctors out in full force saying it's a high ankle sprain. And obviously Christian Watson's dad was on Twitter swatting him away going, you guys don't have a damn clue what you're talking about. And everyone just kind of wrote it off like, all right, Christian Watson's going to be out for several weeks. And then bang, you talk about a tough player, man, being able to come back from that injury.
Yeah, he's hurt. He's playing hurt, right? If you're hurt, you can play through it. If you're injured, you can't. You're injured. You can't play. And Scoot is a guy that clearly is dealing with he's got kind of a flat tire there. That's okay. I'll take Scoot with a flat tire over half the receivers in the league with two tires. So it's all good, man. He got a lot of flack his first and second year for being glass and can't stay healthy and all of this. And you hit it on the head, man. I think people do not give Christian Watson enough credit for his toughness. You talk about a guy. I mean, let's run film. How many times do you see him running right across the middle, catching hospital balls and laying it out there for his team? So Scoot is tough as nails, man. I will not stand for any Christian Watson slander at all.
Yeah, definitely, man. Check out the can you read this okay, Tim?
Yeah, I'm full screen and
All right.
got my face up by the screen.
Cool.
So
why don't you just kind of break down those players that are questionable there? Just list those off real quick. I got to take care of something real quick. I'm going to stay on here, but I got to take care of something real quick. If you'll just read off the questionable players for the Jaguars there for me, man.
Oh, sure. We've got Travis Etienne Jr., their running back, with a hamstring. He was limited all week. He's questionable status. So, again, probably 50-50 chance that he goes. We've got Foye Olukun, their linebacker, with a foot injury, limited all week. Questionable as well, 50-50 shot. Man, you're giving me all the tough ones here, Clayton. Izzy Otemu, defensive tackle with a calf injury, also limited all week. Questionable game status. We've got Cam Robinson, their old lineman, in the concussion protocol, did not participate Wednesday, participated Thursday and Friday, so he's questionable. Kind of very similar situation, I'm assuming, to our own Quay Walker there. You've got Mason Smith, the defensive tackle with an ankle injury. No designations for Wednesday and Thursday, and he did not participate on Friday. They're calling him questionable. My gut tells me probably doubtful, probably not going to play if he hasn't participated at all week. But who knows? They have him as questionable for a reason, so maybe there's a chance he can go. And then you've got Andrew Wingard, their safety with a knee injury. He was limited all week. He's questionable. He had the IR designation. He is designated for a return. So that's the questionables for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looks like Eric Armstead's going to go with the shoulder. He was a full participant on Friday, so someone we should watch. Also, Evan Ingram, their tight end, right?
Yeah. So the big thing that sticks out to me there is Mason Smith probably not going to play. I would imagine. So, because I appreciate you doing that, man. Thank you. That was just enough time too. All right, let's see. I just had to write some stuff down here. Take some notes real quick. What else did we have on the docket? So simple. Let's go simple version of the injury report. Matt Schneiden does this every week. I love it. He says Packers injury report versus the Jaguars. Here's what it basically means, guys. Doubtful cornerback Corey Ballantyne, questionable center Josh Myers, linebacker Quay Walker, and defensive lineman Devontae White. I would be surprised if Josh Myers doesn't play, but also if all three of those guys don't play in this game, I am totally cool with it. That's really the moral of the story for me. If you need to kick Elton Jenkins to center, fire Sean Ryan over to left guard and let Jordan Morgan get all the reps at right guard, I'm okay with that. Same thing with Quay Walker. If you've got Eric Wilson playing in his place, I think everybody would like to see some more snaps for Eric Wilson. That makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, this defensive line is starting to kind of hit their stride with the pressures. As you've seen, they held obviously C.J. Stroud to under 100 yards passing last week and were just in his face the entire time. No reason to rush Devontae Wyatt back this week either. You want these three guys healthy for the Detroit Lions. That's the big thing, man.
For sure. My question with Josh is it his right wrist or left wrist? When you look at your center, if he's got a bum wrist on the hand that he's snapping the ball with, I think that might be a concern. If it's his non-snapping hand, then, tape it up and get out there and play football, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I think it's a good point. And even if it is his left wrist too, we're sitting here talking about it too. I know what you mean. It's like, as long as it's not snap hand, we're good. But he's the one who's having to block a 330-pound tackle with both hands. Like,
sure.
Of course, we think he can do it, but
you're playing through the pain either way. I guess I think the one thing that would keep him out is if, like, all of a sudden all these snaps are going left or right or something, then maybe we keep him out and let him heal up. But there's no doubt you playing injured or hurt in this league, man. Takes toughness, There's no weak guys on that old line. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, definitely. Carl K asked the $1 million question. Nobody has said which wrist is hurt. Mystery. I haven't heard it. I'm sure someone has said it. Let me. I'm gonna
watch Josh Myers be like, it's both. Both of my wrists hurt really bad. They both have tape.
No doubt. I'm gonna search Twitter real quick, and if you want to hit on a comment in there, that's cool. I'm just gonna type in wrist and see if anyone has tweeted out any specifics about it here.
Yeah, Ron Sandville in the chat hit it on the head, just like you said here. Offensive linemen need to punch on every play. Wrist injuries are tough. I agree. That's like it'd be like a kicker dealing with a foot injury or something, like you use that on every single play and you need it. We talk about toughness, but at the end of the day, there's that physical limitation that comes with, being hurt. You can play through the pain all you want, but if that hand or that wrist isn't cooperating with you and you're not getting leverage on your on your blocks, or you're not able to jam a guy as he's coming across the line, then, we have to look at rotating you out, because now you're, in military, they call that combat ineffective. You're combat ineffective, basically. So well, time will tell. We'll see what's up with the wrist, but that's a great point that you guys make here.
I just combed through, and I didn't see a thing as far as the specifics, which that's kind of par for the course when it comes to Green Bay and how they handle injuries. They're going to give out as little information as possible. That's why they say, what's the significance of his injury? It's a toe. Got it. All right, coach, you got it. I personally love that. I don't need to know all the details. If it's going to give another team an advantage, I don't need to know.
We saw that on the Jaguars side of the list too, right? A couple of guys that didn't practice at all, and they're still questionable. That's because they want us to think they're going to play, right? Even if they probably know they're not. It's called gamesmanship, and I'm here for it. I love it.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick look at the Jaguars, kind of at a distance here, if you will. Let's see here. We got a game preview. This is from Next Gen Stats. I'm trying to get it zoomed in where you can see it a little bit better. I know that's going to be very, very hard to read, but I'll give you guys the information here too. Every time I think I've got this set up to where we're not blocking something, it ends up blocking it. And it's driving me crazy, but that's all right. So here we go. So obviously it's a 1 Eastern kickoff, 12 Central. It's going to be on Fox down in Jacksonville. I haven't seen the forecast yet. I imagine it's probably going to be in the 80s, at least the 70s, right? Possibly the 80s. But nonetheless, the Packers currently, if you can see my cursor, they are 4-point favorites as it sits right now. Okay, you can get that -4 at DraftKings Sportsbook at a -112 with the odds there. Over-under is set at 49.5, and the money line, the juices on the Jaguars at +164. The Packers are -198. So obviously the public is on the Packers in this game. As far as them being the favorite, I don't think there's any surprise there. Now, as far as points per game, 26.6 points per game for the Packers scoring. That's 7th best in the league. The Jaguars are scoring 20.7 points per game. That's 21st in the league. Point differential, the Packers are sitting at +43. That's 7th best in the league. The Jaguars are -49 at 26th in the league. Records in close games, we're back up over 500, Tim, in these close games, man. That's what we were looking for. We're now 3-2 in close games this year. The Jaguars are 1-3 in close games. Average margin of victory for the Packers is 10 points. That's 17th best in the league. The Jaguars are right behind them there at the 19th spot at 9.5 points in a margin of victory. Turnover differential, the Packers are +6. That's 3rd best in the league. The Jaguars are -4. That's 27th in the league. So not only are they bad at turning the ball over, they're also bad at taking the ball away. Very interesting stat there. And as far as penalties, this is where they've got the edge on us. They only have 42 penalties this year. That's 13th best in the league. We're sitting at 54 penalties, which is 27th best in the league. Any of this information catch you off guard here, Tim, when we kind of talk about the point spread, all that good stuff down in Jacksonville? I'm going to pull up the forecast now and give you guys an idea of that.
No, nothing really super alarming, I don't think. Right? Nothing crazy. Yeah. They are who we thought they were.
Let's see what they're calling for here on Sunday. So Sunday, obviously the game's going to kick off at 11 a.m. It's going to be roughly 75 degrees, it looks like, if I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, so 75 degrees, and by 2 p.m., 82, and then it's going to peak at about 83. So you're looking at upper 70s, lower 80s. It's going to be pretty warm there on Sunday. They're saying the high could reach 85 degrees, humidity at 57%. Wind is just, slight wind, 8 mile an hour, not bad, but it is going to be sunny. It says mostly sunny is going to be the forecast. So it's going to be a hot one down there in Jacksonville. Tim, we might see our boy Josh Myers throw up on the football again, man. I'm all about it because I tell you, it seems like the team's done pretty good since then, right? As far as who's officiating the game, Tim, do we have an idea of who might be officiating the game?
I just pulled it up, Clayton. I just pulled it up. Don't worry.
We're going to create a screen grab. We're going to create a screen grab that says Tim's officiating update of the week. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, it's not this guy, right?
And
it's definitely not this guy. So that's a good sign. No, it is none other than Land Clark. This guy. Here's a guy.
Here's a guy.
Here, as you see him calling looks like a pass interference or something there. Nice
Here's
action
the
shot.
guy.
Yeah, so hey, let's hope they stay the hell out of the game. Let's just put it that way. Just let the boys play.
Yeah.
I'm
that's all we want.
Not Ronnie Boy. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Last night is funny too. I looked over at one point, Mandy. I'm like, I think we got Vinovich out here calling this damn game because there was just flags flying everywhere. She was like, "Oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal." All right. So that stuff is important though to kind of keep your eye on as far as the penalties list. And on the road, obviously, away teams typically getting penalized more than the home teams.
Yep.
So hopefully, it doesn't play a role in the game there too much. But nonetheless, I mean, the Packers they're pretty much favored in every category here when you really dive into it. And we'll get into some of the greater details on tonight's show as far as like some of the matchup comparisons. Like we'll do the team overview real quick, and then we'll hit on some of the key insights a little later tonight. So as far as overview, overall passing efficiency, okay, the Packers are not best in the league. The Jaguars defense and overall passing efficiency is 32nd. So the Packers have the maximum 5-star advantage there, according to Next Gen Stats. Overall rushing efficiency, the Packers are 11th. Jaguars defense are 16th. So you get a slight 1-star advantage there for the Packers. And then the pressure rate, handling the pressure, the Packers offense, 13th best in the league. The Jaguars defense is 28th. So that's a 4-star advantage there. So overall passing efficiency, rushing efficiency, and pressure rate, the Packers have the advantage their offense over the Jaguars defense. Now, when you go to the other side of the ball here with the Jaguars offense, and we talk about overall passing efficiency, they're 20th. The Packers defense is 5th best in the league. That's a 3-star advantage. Overall rushing efficiency, though, the Jaguars offense is 7th in the league. The Packers defense 9th in the league, and that's going to give the Jaguars a 1-star advantage there. Pressure rate, the Jaguars offense is 4th best in handling pressure rate. The Packers defense is 17th in the league in pressure rate. It's a 4-star advantage for the Jaguars. So essentially what you've got is all 3 of the categories for the Packers offense against the Jaguars defense go in the Packers' favor. And then 2 of the 3 for the Jaguars offense go in their favor as opposed to the one with overall passing efficiency, obviously the pass defense being good. So if the Jaguars are going to beat the Packers, Tim, what this suggests is they're really going to have to lean on the run and obviously be able to handle those pressure packages if we decide to dial up the blitz. Here's the thing about the pressure rate too, though. The Packers are blitzing, I think it's at 17.1%, which is like one of the lowest in the league. We're hitting home with this pressure, and we're giving these quote-unquote simulated pressures where we're mugging the A-gaps. We're bringing corners and safeties up on the line, and it looks like you're going to blitz here. And a blitz, guys, by definition, is 5 rushers or more. And then all of a sudden you drop a bunch of guys out in the fire zone blitz, and you're only bringing 4. That's not technically a blitz, although you simulated that pressure at the line of scrimmage. It does a multitude of things, gets offensive linemen to obviously commit the ghosts, something that's not actually happening on the field. That's how you see a center drift back and pass block. They don't touch a person because they had 2 guys mugging the A-gap, and they had to stay at home with how the protection was set. Now, all of a sudden, those 2 linebackers are dropping back in a hook curl, and that center's blocking air. But what do you think about this here, Tim? This kind of feels like a 4-point game, and I can see how they got the money line where it's at there. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think this game may end up a little closer than we want to admit as Packer fans. As much as we want to look at this as a gimme game and a boat race, I think the Jags are going to come to play, and I do. I think they're going to try to, not live up to their reputation. I think they may go ahead and dial up some blitz packages, figuring that pressuring Jordan Love is the best course of action because we know that Jordan's numbers are better from a clean pocket. Not to say that he's bad under pressure, but if you want him to make a mistake, it usually comes with that pressure and that pocket collapsing. We've seen it with a couple of those picks. So I think the Jags may come out, hot and heavy on defense, and it's going to be up to our O-line to keep Jordan clean out there and let him go to work.
Yeah, definitely. I see people asking about Marshawn Lloyd here in the chat, Tim. I'm trying to comb through. Let me drop this down.
I believe he's still on IR, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's because when is he due to come back? Because I thought his 4 weeks were up, right? Because this is basically, I'm seeing some of the tweets here. No Marshawn Lloyd at practice yet. went from initially being day-to-day to a 5+ week absence now. Poor guy can't get healthy. Everybody's asking, is he practicing? Where's he at? Obviously, he's not practicing. Everybody on Twitter is asking, man. They're asking Bill, Marshawn Lloyd progressing at all on IR? Question mark. Let's see if Bill answered that. No, he didn't.
So if he comes off or he's designated for return, does that mean he comes off the IR automatically, or does that mean they can designate him for another 4 weeks? Or
no, I think the rule is you got to stay on it for at least 4 weeks. But I think I seen somebody in the chat. He's not due to return until what did he say? For 8 games now.
Oh man,
I thought he was out for 8 games. So I don't think that's the case. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm glad we got a late bye. We've got a bye coming up in a couple of weeks, right on time. Give us a little extra time for him.
Yeah, the way I understand it is when you put them on IR, they have to stay there for 4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks, you can bring them back at any point. That's the way I understand it. And I think there's a limited amount of players you can do that too, which obviously goes into the factor too. I just don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this show trying to read NFL rules and stuff like that. So if anybody knows, fire it away, and we'll mention it. But yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. Nick McSwain Clayton, what about Valentine, bro? That's the big question. Like I'm not sure what's going on with Valentine, to be honest with you. He went from kind of being that guy that he was splitting some of the reps with, and listen, I'm going to give you my opinion. It's just strictly my opinion as a football fan. I don't have any inside information, or I'm just trying to read between the lines. Think about it. The big talking point was how he and Eric Stokes real early in the season were kind of splitting. It was like, holy cow, Carrington Valentine, before he got hurt, was on pace to have more snaps than Stokes. Does that mean that Stokes is out now and Carrington's the new corner? So put that on the shelf, right? And then all of a sudden, Keyshawn gets moved outside. Keyshawn plays well, and now nobody's mentioning Carrington. I think that's the answer right there. I don't think he's in the doghouse. I think that injury set him back. What it does tell me is Stokes was playing bad, and they were trying multiple options to get somebody else on the outside, right? So it kind of feels like maybe Keyshawn took that outside corner away from Stokes after Carrington got hurt, and now maybe Stokes has elevated his game enough that he's kind of passed Carrington back up on the depth chart. Again, that's just me trying to – the one constant, though, is Stokes struggled, and they were trying to find an answer on the outside, right, Tim? It kind of feels like that.
And then Valentine being banged up, that wasn't the answer. So Keyshawn stepping up and playing on the boundary clearly was. So we got to just go with what we have now. I don't know. I really wonder about those two when it comes to their role on this team in the future. We probably could be seeing Stokes' last season as a Packer. Happening right now. Yeah, depending on how things go. But I don't know what's up with Val. I've always liked Valentine. So hopefully CV can find the field again and contribute in whatever way he can, because he played a lot of meaningful football for us last year. He really did, and be nice to see him get some reps this year. But hey, man, it's got to be next man up, right? We need the best personnel out there that's performing, and if that means it's Jair and Keyshawn on the boundaries, then that's what it is.
Right. And like Nick says in the chat here, 0 snaps past 2 games is crazy. Completely agree, man. Prince in the chat says, comes off IR and opens a 21-day window to practice without counting against the 53. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Their weeks, $. Let's decide for this. 4 weeks, I bet, is what he meant. Just had that tab key maybe kicked there, or shift key rather. So 4 weeks are up. He is eligible. So he's got a 21-day window now is what it sounds like. So
what does the window mean?
The window, from what I understand, is
he goes back to IR. Is that how that works? Okay.
That's and if I understood correctly, I think I remember this last year. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Last year, this happened to someone, and it came down to the wire. So once they come off IR, you got 21-day window to practice. If they don't practice within that 21-day window, they got to go on IR for the rest of the year, I think is how that reads. So moral of the story, probably going to be back on the field in the next 21 days. That doesn't tell us a damn thing, right? That's a lifetime. So, again, we just wasted 15 minutes talking about this and we came up with nothing. That's why I try to stay away from it every time. Maybe we did learn a little something, but for the most part, still no answers when it comes to Marshawn Lloyd. and really no answers with Valentine either, man. We'll see. He's got to have an opportunity to go out there and show he can do it, right? And right now he's just not getting those opportunities because he's kind of buried on the depth chart. I hope there's nothing behind the scenes. I think some people, and I'm not saying Nick was doing this, but some people reading on Twitter are like, did he do something wrong? Is he in trouble with the team? It's possible. Hopefully that's not the case.
I doubt it. Valentine's one of them. I don't see him causing a ruckus at all. He's a good teammate, well-liked, well-respected. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's got to be injury related or it's just performance related.
Yeah.
If anything, keep an eye on the special team snap counts this week. Let's see if we see them out there on teams.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's it, guys. We will be back tonight for PTA Live at 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll be breaking down some more of this Packers-Jaguars matchup. We're going to hit some of the key insights from Next Gen Stats. We're also going to look at the PFF preview where we're going to compare PFF grades kind of from a formational standpoint, our 11 personnel against their nickel, our 12 personnel against their base, and vice versa. These teams have a lot in common. I will say this, when you look at their personnel and how they deployed at what rate, they're almost a spitting mirror image of as far as personnel on offense of each other. Green Bay runs 11 personnel 61.3% of the time. The Jaguars run at 60.2% of the time. Green Bay's secondary formation is 12 personnel, I should say, not formation, is 12 personnel. Jacksonville runs at 20.2% of the time. The Packers run at 20.1% of the time. So it's obvious that both Matt LaFleur and Doug Peterson are very, very similar in their philosophy of what position groups, what personnel they want on the field. We'll talk about all that tonight, EPA rankings, all that good stuff too. Tim, appreciate you jumping in here, buddy, on this Saturday morning. This was fun.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love it. This was great. Go Pack, go.
All right, guys, we'll see y'all tonight. Appreciate everybody hanging out. If you want to help me out with that, Tim, that's totally fine, man.
For those of you listening on the pod.
That's perfect. Thank you for making us part of your day. We need to get a drop of that. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world.
Bon dia.
Go Pack, go.
That is a possum in